Southeast, yes, is the only region that does not have a high-pressure gas transmission pipe to take natural gas through it. The Southeast does not have a pipe that runs through it, despite the fact that Abia State produces a lot of natural gas. How can Mr. President be talking about renewed hope and economic transformation and increase in the per capita income of Nigerians and prosperity for Nigerians about building a $1 trillion economy when everything is centered around Lagos? I don't know what the Southeast Governors Forum are doing. I don't know what they discuss when they meet, but there are critical areas that we must address and we must bring to the table as soon as possible. The Southeast, yes, is the only region that does not have a high-pressure gas transmission pipe to take natural gas through it. You have the AKK, the Ajaokuta, Abuja, Kaduna, Kano. There is a second phase of that AKK that goes to Gausu in Zamfara. Now, in that AKK, you have pressure metering and reduction stations in Gwagwalada for Abuja, you have in Kaduna, you have in Kano, and then you're also going to have in Gausu when the second phase starts. That AKK is what the government hopes to extend for transnational gas pipeline through Niger Republic to Algeria, even if I don't think that will be feasible because of the lack of diplomatic relationship between Niger Republic and the Nigerian government in Abuja. Okay? The Southeast does not have a pipe that runs through it, despite the fact that Abia State produces a lot of natural gas. In 2007, Ibe Kachuku designed Nigerian Gas Master Plan, and in that master plan, he put a 121-kilometer pipe that is supposed to extend from Aba to Owerri, to Enugu, to Onitsha, and then to Nnewi. The government says that no, they want to do a TNGP pipe extension from Abia State to Ajaokuta, and the second phase is going to go from Abia State to Enugu to Ajaokuta. That is going to take gas away from the Southeast, not through the Southeast. You need a pipe that extends that, because you need gas for glass fabrication, you need gas for urea, you need gas for power. 40% of the gas that is typically produced every day, either through associated gas that you get when you drill crude oil, yeah, or through non-associated gas fields, is used for electricity. So how do you want to increase generation and increase feedstock to the GenCos in the Southeast if you don't build a high-pressure transmission pipe? Whose responsibility is it to make sure that this happens? It's the Nigerian Gas Infrastructure Company, which is a subsidiary of the NNPC Group. So my question to the management of NNPC is, why have they refused to commission FID for gas pipes to the Southeast? Why have the Southeast Governors Forum not gotten into a meeting with the president to ask him why the region does not have a gas pipe that runs through it? What exactly is wrong that it seems that there is like a calculated power share between the Northwest and the Southwest, and until every other region in Nigeria gets permission from the Northwest and the Southwest, nothing happens in their region? It doesn't make any sense. How can Mr. President be talking about renewed hope and economic transformation and increase in the per capita income of Nigerians and prosperity for Nigerians about building a $1 trillion economy when everything is centered around Lagos? Somebody imports a 40-foot container from Guangzhou to Lagos, and it will cost him 5 or 6 million naira to truck it to Aba. And you don't expect that he's going to pass on that inflation cost to the people, considering the fact that we don't have standard gauge rail lines that extend horizontally from the Southwest to the Southeast. It's marginalization, economic marginalization, and we have to speak truth to power. Lagos is a city of about 18 to 20 million people. We don't really know accurate census in Nigeria because, you know, we've not had a real census in a very long time. But let's just say Lagos is a city of about 18 to 20 million, occupying 30,527 square meters, I think, which is the smallest landmass in Nigeria. It has a GDP of over $4,500 per capita when you look at it in real times, compared to the per capita of Nigeria of about $2,520 US. The question now becomes, of the 6 different ports in Nigeria, Warri, Onne, Calabar. Calabar, by the way, was the first deep sea port in Nigeria because Calabar was the first federal capital of Nigeria. Apapa, Tinkan, you know, How many of them are operational? How many of them are operational today? Look, Onne Seaport is designated as exploration and production for oil and gas, which means that if you're bringing any goods that is non-oil and gas cargoes, the rates that your charge is not, it makes the port uncompetitive. So if you bring a car through Onne, you're going to pay more as compared to what you pay in Lagos, which means that Lagos will be the preferred seaport for bringing in cars and every other cargo. And cars, by the way, are one of the major imports that constitutes a share of our major imports, especially from the US. Okay? Why would you not invest in raising the channel draft in Calabar? In 2006, a contract was awarded to a Dutch company to embark on rehabilitation of that seaport and to raise the channel draft. The government had issues with the company over contract variation costs, and that lingered for a long time. When the government attempted to go back to do it, the company says that you cannot, and the case was in court. In 2022, that case was taken out of court for out-of-court settlement. The immediate past MD of MPA says that, they've taken the case out of court, we're going to work on raising the channel draft. The Calabar Seaport is dead. Like, you barely have vessels coming there, maybe one vessel per week compared to Lagos. How do you build an economy when the smallest state by landmass that has the highest per capita income with the highest population, right, has the only functioning seaport in Nigeria, while everybody else is left to go home and dry? It doesn't make sense. This is the reason why I'm saying to the president that it is economic injustice and Nigeria is structurally skewed to favor Lagos economy. And this is the basic truth. The Calabar deep seaport draft has not been done. The documents at the ICRC has been cleared for Akwa Ibom deep seaport project in Ibom. The federal government has sat on it because if you look at the structure, 20% of the shares belongs to the federal government, 20% belongs to the state government, and 60% belongs to interested private sector investor. And that 60% was given as a 34-year concession, a PPP with Bolloré Logistics, like 2 or 3 years ago. Bolloré, the French company, ended up selling itself to MSC, Mediterranean Shipping Company. Mediterranean said they are doing revalidation. Why is the federal government not putting as much effort in making sure that they start building Akwa Ibom Deep Seaport like they did for Lekki Deep Seaport in Lekki Free Trade Zone? And now the Minister of Marine and Blue Economy is saying that they are going to cut investors and they are doing drawings to see that they start the Bakassi Deep Seaport. How can Lagos have 3 functioning seaports with a 4th one in the works and every other place is languishing? How do you build an economy when everything is centered around Lagos? Is it because the Lagos establishment is afraid that if there's an operational seaport in the Eastern Maritime flank, which geographically is better for maritime operations, you're going to have diversion of port operations from the southeast, the south-south, the northeast to Akwa Ibom? Is it because they're afraid of revenue losses? It doesn't make any sense. We have to say the truth to power.
It is no coincidence that Nigeria, a country of 218 million population, blessed with vast mineral and human resources, is regarded as the poverty capital of the world. It is no coincidence. The truth is the Nigerian economy was deliberately created to create few wealthy people and few wealthy states. There are 36 states in Nigeria, but when you want to talk about economic viability, you can mention just 3 cities out of the many cities in this country, and these cities are Port Harcourt, Lagos, and Abuja. It's crazy how power and wealth is concentrated in these few cities, despite having many undeveloped cities across the country. This is the reason why Nigeria is regarded as the poverty capital of the world, because wealth, resources is not evenly distributed. The power sharing and wealth formula of this country has been concentrated between the north and the southwest over the years. Successive leaders in this country have focused their attention in developing the north and the southwest, The North, for instance, has had sway to power for 40 years out of Nigeria's 64 years of independence. When I'm talking about the North, I'm talking about the Northwest, because the Northeast and the North Central has had little or no sway to power. Despite having access to power, the North is still underdeveloped, having the larger percentage of Nigerian poverty rate, out of school children, insecurity, and all manner of diseases. This is followed by the Southwest that equally have a larger percentage of the power sharing formula. The Southeast, and to a smaller extent the South-South, has suffered larger marginalization politically and in terms of the wealth sharing formula. Not only are these regions marginalized politically, they are also marginalized in terms of key governmental infrastructure. But you need to understand that the economic stagnation of Nigeria's Southeast and the South-South region is not accidental. It is a result of deliberate policies decisions and a systemic neglect by the federal government. Like I mentioned earlier, you can see this marginalization glaringly in the distribution of critical infrastructure, particularly in the maritime and the gas sectors, where strategic projects that could transform this region are either stalled or abandoned entirely. The reason is because the federal government has continued to centralize the development of maritime operation in Lagos, and they have disregarded the development of port and gas pipeline in the Eastern Corridor. This deliberate action of the federal government has stifled industrialization, it has increased economic inequality, and it has perpetuated underdevelopment across the Southeast and the South-South. Nigeria over-reliance on Lagos as the hub of maritime operation has created a lopsided system that has disproportionately benefited the Southwest while other regions languish. In a country of over 218 million population, Lagos has 4 active ports, while other regions has none. The ones that were created in other regions are not functioning anymore. This has resulted to the Lagos port currently handling over 80% of Nigeria's maritime traffic. This monopoly has not only turned Lagos into an economic giant, but has also created logistic bottlenecks, inefficiency, and environmental degradation. Meanwhile, the Southeast and the South-South, the regions with a vast untapped maritime potential, still remain deliberately sidelined by the federal government. Take for instance the Ibaka Deep Sea Port in Akwa Ibom State. This seaport has the capacity to become a major gateway for international trade. The Ibaka Deep Sea Port is in a very strategic location, and it has the potential to boost regional and the national growth. But this deep sea port has been stalled and abandoned for years by the federal government. The bureaucratic bottleneck and the federal government reluctance to approve and support this project is a clear indication of its bias against the South-South and the Southeast region. Aside the Ibaka Deep Sea Port in Akwa Ibom State, there is also the Calabar Deep Sea Port. The Calabar Deep Sea Port was the first seaport in Nigeria because Calabar was the first capital of Nigeria. But currently, this deep sea port has been left to deteriorate. Its channels remain shallow, its facilities are outdated, and its potential are largely ignored by the federal government. In the midst of all of this, the federal government is preparing to construct the 4th deep sea port in Lagos State, while critical projects in the Southeast and the South-South are ignored, leaving the region dependent on Lagos for maritime trade. To add salt to injury, the Onne port, one of the few functional ports in the South-South that could have served the Southeast effectively, has been limited by its classification as an exploration and production hub. This means that the Onne port is only meant for the transportation of crude oil. You cannot bring in cars and other imported items through the Onne port. This is the reason why it will cost you like 2 million naira to import a car from abroad to Lagos, but it will cost you 6 million naira to clear that same car from the Lagos port to the Southeast and the South-South. Tell me who is going to bear the brunt of the cost of clearing that goods from the Lagos port. That is the reason why the major importers of cars in this country are domiciled in Lagos. This is the reason why the Lagos economy is improving on a daily and yearly basis. If this restriction is removed from the Onne port, no one will have to go to Lagos to clear a car, and the cost of cars in the south and the southeast will drastically reduce. Diversifying the port operation in this country is going to boost Nigeria's economy. It will enhance regional trade. It will ease congestion in Lagos. It will boost industrial growth. It will create jobs and economic empowerment in the country. If the federal government is not deliberately sabotaging the economy of this country, if the federal government is not deliberately trying to make the people poorer, tell me why they don't want to diversify the port operation in this country. Tell me why everything is domiciled in Lagos. During the last election, we saw Mr. P2B took his time to explain all of this, especially diversification of the seaport. But then, Nigerians choose to go with a man that wants to make the Nigeria economy to become a Lagos economy. And that is what we are experiencing now. Years to years, leaders to leaders, we keep experiencing economic sabotage because we allow people who do not understand the meaning of wealth creation to become our leaders. Unfortunately, they are not the ones that are suffering the brunt of the sabotage we are experiencing in this country. You and I, we are the ones that are suffering it. Thank you for watching. I'm going to see you in the next video.